Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts. And today I wanted to do something special, but that sort of got killed. Like, more ways than one. Why do I say that? Well, because I came in today and Eric and Rico are hanging out, and I told Eric, hey Eric, let you and me have a death match on camera. And let that be the show. Of course, that triggered something because, what did you say, Eric? When I said let's have a death match with blades?
I don't have that much experience with knives.
He said he doesn't have that much experience with knives, to which I replied, shame on you, shame on you. And then I looked at Rico because I was disappointed as his student and also as a fellow instructor, because how could you not teach him about blades? So what did he do? Taught him about blades and then he kicked my ass. So it kind of killed the whole moment with having a duel with him. But it definitely became a really cool topic to then talk about, because as I'm seeing the lesson kind of progress in front of me, and keep in mind, this lesson was for Eric. I just sort of tagged along because it looked interesting and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a nice concept. And it dawned on me why in Filipino martial arts as a whole, we have a lot of hand movements. Like parry play strap, even Sinawali, if you think of it as less of a striking and more of a just the movement itself. Oh, we're just moving our hands. Parry play strap, oh, it's a derivative of that. Whether we go on the inside or on the outside, we do 3 of the 6 movements and then we do 3 more once we enter. And you've all seen this before. And once you consider that idea, what Rick was saying is that if you try to stop a blade with just one hand, one, is that enough? Like, would that be enough to stop that? And the obvious answer, I believe, would be no. Hell no. Kidding me? No, you definitely want to use both hands, but then what do you do after that? What are the other things that you have to then consider when it comes to a blade? And as everything in the bladed mind that we do, we use larger scale objects. Why? To illustrate things, because it's not about the blade itself. Like we kind of hinted to earlier, we use sticks. Well, we also have blade orientation when we use sticks. So you put a blade in your hand, you know how to use a blade. But can you defend against it? What is that then required? So, sir, pick up your blade. To the death. We who are about to die salute you. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Because we can do all the exercises that we've been doing before, you know, we do 1 and 11, do all that, but really what is it doing? We just motion. But okay, what are their cuts, right? If I really wanted to cut him, he's giving me 1, I'm giving him 1, I need to stop this and I cut him. But again, now we're exploring the idea of these basic strikes into actual slashes and cuts. And that's just the progression of it. If he's trying to take care of my cut, there you go. Took care of that, stopped it from coming towards, and he cut me. But again, while it is actually it is legal to walk around with like a blade this size in your belt. I mean, I'm sure you'll get the cops' attention, but I believe it is legal in California to have a fixed blade as long as it's visible. You know, as long as you're not trying to hide it. I believe it's legal. Don't quote me on the details of that, but that's just based on the things that I've heard. So it is possible to walk around with one of these. The moment you pull it out, though, that intent changes and it might get a little dicier. So the reality of somebody coming at you with a blade like this, probably not that high. And the likelihood of both of you having a blade, unless, you know, we set a time and a date, you know, high noon on Tuesday. We won't talk about what day is today. High noon on Tuesday, you and I are going to have ourselves a death match, you know, all Kill Bill style, but it's probably not going to happen either. So as we play with this, we learn how to take care of things. And he gives me something, I take care of that. I give him a different look. And this looks nice and pretty. You're supposed to take care of it. It was your turn. And he died. All right, there, I won the duel. But you've seen these exercises. You've seen it, right? But what do they really then become later on when you don't have a blade? When he doesn't. Oh, actually, you have a blade. I don't have a blade. And he attacks me. What am I going to do? Arrgh! Would I really be able to stop his hand this way? No, probably not. But then I started thinking, what did he do when I did have a blade? He stopped this blade, but he automatically did what? He cut me. right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure if I'm getting eviscerated here in my stomach, I'm really not going to be thinking about cutting you very much, would I? So, would that be fair to say that that's an element that then you would want to translate beyond a dueling of blades and exchange of blades? Get that person to think of something other than cutting you. Okay? So, what would that look like? You attack me again, however you attack me, and that's the first thing I did, just pop you in the face. This arm, despite the fact that we weren't actually hitting each other, just the fact that this was so close to his nose, it lost a lot of power. It's no longer that much of an issue. But what did I have to do to accomplish that? Well, one, this is his optimum range. I can't hit him. So, along with stopping him from thinking, in order for me to accomplish it, I had to walk in. I had to walk in and I used both my hands against his one knife, right? Because he's only trying to hit me with that. He's trying to cut me, swing. I'm really just trying to hurt as much as I can, isolate this, but meanwhile I'm destroying everything I possibly can. Because one, I don't want him to come back with that. I don't. That's, again, the mentality behind it is keep yourself as safe as possible. And I realized as we were going through this exchange of blades that those three elements seem to become like the key to being able to accomplish I don't want to say foolproof, but adequate knife defense. Because the reality is you'll probably still get cut. And if the person knows what the hell they're doing, yeah, you might still die. But, he will remember you because you scratched his eye out or you broke his knee or you hurt him some way that he's going to remember, yeah, that guy, Eric, he was a good man. He fought to the bitter end until I stabbed him 17 times. We've seen those techniques too. But it got me thinking about what are the elements that translate, because now he doesn't have a blade. I have a much smaller blade. Now it's one of these things where I can conceal, where I can keep hidden, where if I'm not letting him know and I attack him, look at that. Now, it happened a little fast, but he pretty much shoved my nose into my brain. He let me come in because I was charging into him, because I have to get this close in order to cut him, especially with a blade this size. But he took the three elements that we were just discovered in this exercise. He, one, stopped me from thinking about hurting him by shoving my nose into my brain. Two, he worked within his range to be able to effectively stop this from coming forward. And he used both of his hands, and that's what triggered that idea, is because you see all these fancy moves where we're doing these exercises and we're constantly using both of our hands in Filipino martial arts, right? We're constantly moving from one to the other. Now, why is that? Well, simply put, hands are constantly moving, even in a fist fight. Nobody just does this. Unless you're in Oklahoma, and I only say this because I saw a video of people in Oklahoma where they were literally just, and every time they come back to this, but it's still throwing multiple shots. Anyone else, they're fighters. They're going to be throwing multiple shots. So our hands have to constantly keep moving. And that's what triggered this idea that Filipino martial arts, like in general, is a great tool to learn to defend against knives. Not just use them, because again, you don't really want to seem the aggressor, but if you are being attacked, your hands keep moving. You keep isolating this, and you keep my brain from working on the idea of hurting you. And you do everything else you possibly can within your range where you are comfortable to be able to stop that knife from continuing to come at you. Because again, the idea is that the attacker isn't really going to give you one. For somebody with a size difference, camera plays tricks on people's size. So yeah, he is actually taller than me, he is heavier than me, and he has a much longer range. So if he were to attack me, right, now I'm here. Now I'm taking this knee out, I'm elbowing, I'm hammering, I'm just bashing as much as I possibly can. But for me, I had to come in this close. I couldn't hold it out here. He could probably muscle through that. Now, that's not saying this isn't viable. If he hits me hard enough here, I'm probably not going to have much strength. But I didn't. I went for this and I wanted to stop it, and then I attacked with everything I possibly could to make sure. But that's my interpretation. But the three elements were still there. Both of my hands were moving. I was moving within my own range where I am most comfortable. I am comfortable fighting close range. I like using my short range weapons. That's where I'm comfortable. He has longer arms. His elbow has a lot more space than my elbow. But he's still within his range, and I'm working within my range, and I'm doing everything I possibly can to keep him from thinking about attacking me. And what's the simplest thing that I could do? If he attacks me, right? Just bip him in the face. Don't necessarily have to hurt him. No, I literally just put my hand in his face. Now, I stopped, but realistically, I would keep going and moving or isolating that arm and putting myself in a position where he can no longer move that hand. And all this came from this simple idea that in Filipino martial arts, we're constantly using both hands. Even when we use sticks, you see it. People are moving. They're swinging their stick. Their other hand is doing something else. And I started wondering, what is the importance of that? Now, what did you see when Rico was giving you that lesson? Because again, this is never really about just what I say. It's about what you interpret. What did you interpret in that process?
There was a lot from my brain.
Right?
So I latched on to something that I've been working on and trying to stick in my head, which is ranging. That whole idea about what is the proper range.
Mm-hmm. Wait. When you say proper range...
For me personally, for my body.
Okay, just want to make sure that...
Yeah, what I'm comfortable with, yes. No, that's a very good
right?
point. But see, I'm very much in my own head, so I'm thinking proper range. But yes,
right.
For Eric.
Proper range for Eric.
And in addition to that, depending on who is attacking me, they're going to be built differently.
So keeping that in mind, I mean, Rico's a little shorter than me and stockier? Stockier, is that the word? Wider than me. So
he's got a few more curves.
He has a few more curves. This way. But sorry, that got me. Fuck you guys. But the way that Eric responded against him is different than the way he responded against me. But throughout that exchange, as I was sitting here watching, I realized those three elements were constantly there. Then how you use them, then that's dependent on your skill level. I mean, it could be sloppy, right? As long as it's effective and you keep going, because you might have to hit them 17 more times. Now those techniques actually make sense, you know, where you do 17 cuts on somebody and you're like, get all the vitals and like that. Maybe they're not meant as a knife technique. Maybe they're meant as an idea. Because if you think of it as an idea, when you don't have a knife, well, imagine I'm giving you this and you start attacking every vital point that you come across. Everything that, there you go. Every single vital, and he hits all, 17 of them. However many there are on the human body. I'm sure there are a lot more than 17. I know at least 25. I can't rattle them off the top of my head. But maybe that's what it is. If we think of that as a concept, maybe I'm not learning how to, remove somebody's spine with a knife. But maybe I'm learning that as my hands are constantly moving and keeping that knife away, and I'm striking with everything else and switching and moving into a lock, I'm also destroying joints, or I'm getting to somebody's back. So then they can't attack me anymore. And that's sort of what popped into my head. Thank you very much, Eric. That was actually really cool. But that's just what I saw. I mean, again, I'm not taking away anything from anyone. The Filipino martial arts are very vast and diverse in their techniques and ideas and concepts and the history behind it. Sadly, a lot of which has been lost, and some masters were, funny enough to give everyone a different true technique to it, which it's funny to hear.
And then there's that universality of movement that we always talk about within the martial arts, within different systems and styles.
Yeah.
So,
because you see it all the time. You see these techniques where you go from one hand to the next, to the next, to the next, and you do it in these stances. And they could be punches, they could be chops, they could be all these different things as their one interpretation. But when you take that away, it's just left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, 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 right. And that's all the movements really are. What you strike with, sure, it changes. And it could be specific to that art. But if we stripped all that away, then it's just movement. And then what's left? Well, the ideas behind it. So what ideas beyond ranging would you say you got out of this exchange?
Well, this may sound ridiculous, but don't get cut.
Super important.
No, I mean, there's that awareness that it's a blade. And even though I understand the commonality of the movements, whether you're punching or striking, things change when I see the blade in your hand.
That is very true.
So that changes my mentality. I need to stay centered, but I do have to be aware and acknowledge that that's a blade, because there are a few things that are a little different.
No, that's very true. I heard a story once. A martial artist got into a fight at a bar, right? And this guy had his fists, and he kept them close to his body, and they were fighting, and no one was really getting the better of anyone, right? But all of a sudden, as the fight continued, this guy started getting more and more tired, and he's like, what the hell is going on? Like, he's not really hitting me, I'm not really hitting him, what's going on? Turned out that the guy he was fighting had 2 box cutters, an ice pick grip. And with all that adrenaline, with all that heat, plus they were drinking at a bar, he did not feel any one of those cuts, but the guy wasn't really missing him. He was cutting him. Shallow cuts, but still, after a while of bleeding, your adrenaline's pumping, yeah, that guy got a lot woozy. But like you said, you never know, and even in instances like that, would you say then, as a rule of thumb, especially in a street fight, assume it's a knife?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Right?
And if you know it's a knife, building upon that, acknowledging the knife was, okay, so there's that cut. But we were talking about, but that arm can come back, that knife can come back again. Someone's not just throwing it out there.
Right.
They have a purpose, they have aggression, they want to come at you.
Yeah.
So you moved out that one time and didn't get cut, but now what?
Right.
Where did you place that?
Mentally,
what are you set up to do? What position did you put them in? Are they totally ready to come back, or are they thinking about something else?
Did you make them think about something else?
Exactly. So those were things that stood out to me.
Okay.
With what we had been going over a little bit.
And dude, those are actually incredible points to keep in mind. Like whatever knife techniques that you know, whatever knife training that you've done, I'm sure these points have been covered in one of your sessions or another. People have made livings of teaching these concepts. But for me, they're just things that sort of popped up by watching this lesson between you and Rico, because you don't really stop to think about it. Like you hear it and you're told these things, and sometimes you forget the rule of thumb. Sometimes you forget why you learn, this stuff, and why you're switching hands and things like that, or why you're doing. But you do it very well, and you teach it very well. But then we realize, wait, there might be more to this. And that's one of those moments where I really love watching, especially you and Rick play, is that ideas pop into my head beyond what I was originally given. And even you yourself demonstrated, dude, you got all the ideas. Did we actually teach you those things, or were there stuff that you just thought were important?
Yeah, it wasn't if A then B. It was, here's some concepts, here's some things to be aware of, here are a couple of things you can use. And then it was, all right, let's try out and see what your body wants to do. And then, whatever seemed more appropriate came out. It wasn't, we're doing technique 7 or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, real fight, they're not going to tell you, I'm going to give you an angle 1 attack. I'm going to stab you in that. No, you're not going to know. And you're absolutely right. It's probably better to just assume it's a knife and take care of it. And once you realize, oh, okay, no, this guy has no idea what he's doing, then you just push him out of the way. And hopefully he doesn't have a gun and shoot you. Just things to consider. But dude, awesome class. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. Thank you very much, Eric, because honestly, it would not be anywhere near as good if it wasn't for you. So appreciate you guys. Oh, just a shout out to Wolf's Den Armory, our good friend John Atkinson. Look him up. He makes these really dope blades. And he's got a whole new line of trainers, so look out for him. Any shows that you know he's going to be there, go, if for nothing else, to check out his wares. But John, thank you so very much. That's Wolf's Den Armory. Look him up on Facebook. John Atkinson, you can reach out to him as well. Eric, any last shout outs?
Trust yourself.
All right. It's a good concept. Now, to the next one. 3, 2, 1.